one vehicle that seems like it probably wouldn't need 1,000 horsepower, it's a Jeep Grand Cherokee. After all, they already have two insanely powerful versions. They've got the 485 horsepower SRT, and they've got the 707 horsepower SRT Trackhawk. But the dudes at Hennessey have never been the sorts of guys to say, you know what, we don't really need this, so let's not make it. So introducing the Jeep Grand Cherokee Trackhawk HPE 1000 with 1,000 horsepower. This thing makes 1,012 horsepower and 969 pound-feet of torque at the crank, according to Hennessey, which, for the record, is a little bit more of both of those than a Bugatti Veyron. It also has all-wheel drive like a Bugatti Veyron. It has one more gear than a Bugatti Veyron because this has an 8-speed automatic versus a 7-speed. So basically, if Bugatti made a truck and didn't put any luxury features in it beyond what you'd find in a high-end Jeep, it would be this. Let's try a 60-mile-an-hour pull. Oh! Jeeps can't do this! This isn't right! Oh, you know what? I thought at first this was too much power. I was like, you know what? Who needs 1,000 horsepower in a Jeep? This is the perfect amount of power for this car. This is what the Jeep Grand Cherokee Trackhawk should always be. It doesn't feel like it's trying to knock you flat out onto the canvas. This thing just feels like a regular Jeep. It's just been dialed up a lot. Now, among sort of the most obvious changes they do at Hennessey in order to turn this thing from a regular, only mildly insane 707 horsepower Trackhawk and turn it into the absolutely crazy town banana pants 1,000 horsepower Hennessey performance version. The biggest thing is literally a giant supercharger. It is 4.5 liters of displacement, which means it is the size of a lot of engines in terms of just the amount of air it's being shoved through, and it's just the supercharger. That is a lot of air to be just compressed and dumped down that 6.2 liter engine. Clearly, it works. Grab your socks. We gonna get good. Oh, we have liftoff! Houston, we have liftoff! My God, I have driven some fast cars in my day, but there's nothing that's quite as wackadoo as this 1,000 horsepower Jeep. So inside, much like outside, this looks exactly like any other Jeep Grand Cherokee SRT. John Hennessey was talking earlier with us about how the idea is to make the builds replicable easily, and also to make them, you know, look kind of clean, and to not go with a crazy, super far from stock look. So this car, I mean, this Jeep looks almost identical to your basic Trackhawk. I mean, the only differences that you'd notice would be the little Hennessey badges they put on the side. And if you didn't know what those were, you probably wouldn't think twice about it. And if you drive it normally, it doesn't feel ridiculous. I mean, part of the nice thing about putting 1,000 horsepower into this Grand Cherokee is that you have all-wheel drive. Now granted, the guy from Hennessey told me that this thing can still break all four wheels loose at 30 miles an hour if you floor it. As long as you're only halfway responsible, you still can handle that pretty easily. It's not going to get too crazy the way that, you know, putting Bugatti-ish levels of power into a rear-wheel drive Demon or something like that would do. The thing that really sets this car apart is it's this combination of the sleeper looks and the hypercar power. I mean, it's 1,000 horsepower. All-wheel drive, 1,000 horsepower, 969 pound-feet of torque. Those are hypercar stats. This is a Jeep. Walks like a Jeep, talks like a Jeep, except a little louder. But you know what? It goes like a friggin' 911 turbo. So, the engineers here have told me the best thing to do to launch this puppy, not to use actually the launch control function, which SRT does include on the stock vehicle, but because it's got 1,000 horsepower, all you gotta do is pop this bad boy in drive, twist the drive mode selector to sports mode, then you're gonna tack it up to about 1,500 horsepower, and that should enable you to fire off a 0 to 60 in about 2.7 seconds. So sport mode enabled, revving it up. Go! Holy God Almighty! Oh, whoa! Those first 2 gears, right out of the hole, where it just throws you back and the nose rears up like a Chris Craft. This thing is unstoppable. There's no fighting with Sir Isaac Newton. You can't beat the physics of trying to run a vehicle this big that fast. When you jam on the brakes, it's a little unsettling because you've got, what, 2.5 tons of car that you're trying to slow down as it's trying to pick up speed like a Saturn V rocket. And admittedly, with the aerodynamics, I mean, it's obviously SRT has done a great job doing what they can with this. It's still a flying brick, and there's only so much you can do to make that slip through the air. And the faster you go, just the way that the physics works a bit, you know, drag increases with the square of speed. So it makes sense as you're building up speed once you get up past the sane highway velocities and into the areas where you normally only reach on the Autobahn or on a drag strip. So the faster you go, the more that's going to slow you down. You could just take this thing from 0 to 100 all day long, just over and over and over again, and it would never get old. You could sell rides to this damn thing. It is a remarkable piece of engineering and strapping a giant fucking supercharger to an engine.